Ancient Egypt thrived as a civilization in ancient North Africa, flourishing along the lower stretches of the Nile River. The video traces the origins of prehistoric Egypt and its establishment around 3100 BC, marked by the political consolidation of Upper and Lower Egypt under Menes, frequently recognized as Narmer. The history of these lands spans thousands of years, rich with diverse experiences and events. Over time, the people here witnessed a multitude of occurrences, ranging from conflicts to eras of peace, from periods of famine and decline to epochs of prosperity and awe-inspiring wonders previously unseen in the world. A succession of kingdoms flourished, interspersed with intervals of relative instability referred to as intermediate periods. These included the Old Kingdom during the Early Bronze Age, the Middle Kingdom of the Middle Bronze Age, and the New Kingdom of the Late Bronze Age. By simply observing these lands and reflecting on their remarkable achievements, which occurred millennia ago, one might conclude that this ancient civilization was undeniably successful. For instance, the construction of the Great Pyramid of Khufu around 2582 to 2560 BC stands as a testament to their ingenuity and prowess. To put this into perspective, the year 1 AD during the time of Jesus is closer to our present era than it is to the construction of this colossal wonder. The success of the ancient Egyptian civilizations stemmed from various factors, among which their ability to adapt to the conditions of the Nile River Valley for agriculture stands out prominently. The predictable flooding and controlled irrigation of the fertile valley yielded surplus crops, fostering a dense population, social development, and cultural flourishing. Additionally, the administration sponsored mineral exploitation in the valley and surrounding desert regions, facilitating the early development of an independent writing system. The organization of collective construction and agricultural endeavors, along with trade relations with surrounding regions, was facilitated by a military aimed at securing Egyptian dominance. Orchestrating and motivating these activities was a bureaucracy comprising elite scribes, religious leaders, and administrators, all under the authority of a pharaoh, a king entrusted with ensuring the unity of the Egyptian people within the framework of an intricate system of religious beliefs. The ancient Egyptians achieved numerous remarkable feats, including pioneering construction techniques that enabled the creation of monumental pyramids, temples, and obelisks. They also developed advanced systems of mathematics, irrigation, and agricultural production, as well as a practical and effective system of medicine. Additionally, the Egyptians excelled in the art of cutting and polishing building materials. Over time, new traditions emerged, and the state successfully confronted external adversaries. An intriguing aspect of ancient Egyptian history is the earliest known peace treaty, forged between Egypt and the Hittites. Considering their enduring ruins, monuments, statues, and structures that continue to captivate us today, along with their advancements in medicine and military prowess, one might ponder what ultimately led to the collapse of ancient Egypt. The seeds of Egypt's decline were actually sown around 1.5 millennia earlier, during the reign of Ramses II, considered the peak of power in the 19th dynasty of Egyptian history. Ramses's principal adversaries were the Hittites, hailing from what is now modern Turkey. The pivotal Battle of Kadesh, prominently depicted on the grand temples of the great pharaoh, exemplified the fierce rivalry between these two ancient powers. Throughout its history, Egypt faced numerous invasions and conquests by foreign powers, including the Hyksos, Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, and Achaemenid Persians. The initial signs of weakening manifested through a decline in military strength and limited advancements in military technology, attributed partly to the scarcity of natural resources. Meanwhile, surrounding and expanding empires were able to capitalize on locally available resources to forge iron, surpassing Egypt in military capabilities. Indeed, a significant disparity existed between the Egyptians, armed with bronze weapons, and the Hittites, who had access to iron. While not necessarily a decisive factor on its own, lagging behind in military technology compared to adversaries like the Hittites could have contributed to the eventual decline of Egypt. Egypt's vulnerability increased over time due to its lack of access to essential metals and ores, rendering it susceptible to the advancements of more powerful competing armies. Additionally, as history unfolded, it became evident that great civilizations collapsed not solely due to external pressures, but also internal conflicts. Crises arose, political discord emerged, eventually resulting in the division of the empire into northern and southern regions. A prolonged civil war ensued between these two factions, exacerbating internal fragmentation within the Egyptian state. These internal struggles weakened Egypt, creating opportunities for other burgeoning empires to invade and seize Egyptian territory and resources. In addition to the scarcity of natural resources undermining their military prowess, various political events significantly impacted the power dynamics in Egypt. One pivotal event was the evolving role of the revered pharaoh, setting the stage for internal conflict and upheaval. Following a prolonged civil war and numerous efforts to reunify the Egyptian state, the empire remained divided, characterized by significant administrative gaps and a tenuous relationship between the governments of the northern and southern regions. Every facet of the state was crucial for its survival and prosperity. Notably, religion exerted a profound influence across all aspects of Egyptian life, evident in the enduring presence of hieroglyphs on ancient walls. The administration faltered, rendering the state internally weak. The quality of life steadily deteriorated for ordinary citizens, exacerbated by growing economic disparity between the populace and the religious elite. Religious leaders wielded significant influence and controlled vast swathes of Egypt's land, resulting in a disproportionate share of the nation's income. Disputes over wealth distribution raised concerns about the inadequacy of administration. Additionally, alongside wealth distribution issues, the exorbitant costs of military conflicts in the latter stages of the ancient Egyptian era proved to be incredibly burdensome. Massive investments in military endeavors depleted government resources and exacerbated the state's weaknesses. These myriad issues compounded, exacerbating Egypt's vulnerabilities. Dependency on the Nile River, coupled with a dearth of mineral resources, corruption, and economic instability, undermined Egypt's capacity to manage external pressures. Internal conflicts, alongside external military engagements, further eroded the strength of the empire, ultimately contributing to its downfall. A significant blow befell Egypt in the 7th century BC when the nearby Assyrians launched an invasion. The Assyrians occupied Memphis, plundered the temples of Thebes, and ruled over Egypt until 627 BC. During this period, the Egyptian climate played a role in the decline of ancient Egypt. Additionally, the temperamental nature of the Nile River, which served as the primary source of water for drinking and crop irrigation, further exacerbated the challenges faced by the civilization due to its unpredictable flooding and fluctuating water levels. The consequences were dire, as widespread hunger gripped the land and thousands of Egyptians perished from dehydration and starvation. Experts attribute the primary cause of ancient Egypt's downfall to the low water levels in the Nile. In the later stages of the empire's existence, a period spanning 2 to 3 decades was marred by erratic flooding of the Nile, resulting in the destruction of crops and exacerbating the plight of the populace reliant on them for sustenance. Following the Assyrian occupation, control of Egypt was entrusted to a succession of vassals known as the Sate kings of the 26th dynasty. Despite the revival of the economy and culture after the Assyrians were repelled, a new threat emerged in 525 BC when the formidable Persian Empire initiated the conquest of Egypt. In the Battle of Pelusium, the Persian forces captured the pharaoh, Psamtik III. Subsequently, the Persian king assumed the formal title of pharaoh, governing Egypt from Iran and appointing a satrap to oversee Egyptian affairs. At the culmination of this prolonged period of political and economic turmoil, exacerbated by devastating climate challenges, Egypt had ceded much of its territory and dwindled to a mere province within the vast Persian Empire. During this tumultuous period, revolts erupted across Egypt, resulting in the loss of thousands of lives. The public grew increasingly discontented with both their political and religious leaders. Following the conquest of the Persian Empire by Alexander the Great, he was hailed as a savior by the Egyptians upon his arrival. The administration instituted by Alexander's successors, the Macedonian Ptolemaic Kingdom, adopted elements of the Egyptian model and was headquartered in the newly established capital of Alexandria. This city served as a symbol of the power and influence of Hellenistic rule and flourished as a center of learning and culture. Persistent Egyptian revolts, coupled with the ambitions of politicians and formidable adversaries from the Near East, plunged the region into instability, prompting Rome to dispatch forces to assert control and incorporate Egypt as a province of its empire. Concurrently, Christianity began to gain traction in Egypt, bringing with it the adoption of the Greek alphabet. These developments marked significant transformations in key aspects of ancient Egyptian culture, shaping the foundation of the culture as we recognize it today. The adoption of a new religion, replacing the ancient Egyptian beliefs that had long been a dominant cultural force, precipitated the decline of practices such as mummification, for which the ancient Egyptians were renowned. Similarly, the adoption of the Greek alphabet supplanted the use of hieroglyphics, another iconic feature of Egyptian culture that has endured through the ages. These transformative shifts marked the definitive decline of ancient Egypt, although the underlying forces that precipitated this decline had been at play for a significant period. By the 4th century, as the Roman Empire underwent division, Egypt found itself situated within the Eastern Empire. In the twilight years of the empire, Egypt succumbed to the advancing Persian army from 618 to 628 AD, only to be reclaimed by the Roman Emperor Heraclius from 629 to 639 AD. However, Egypt's fate was ultimately sealed when it was captured by the Muslim Rashidun army in 639 to 641 AD, thereby bringing an end to Roman rule in its final centuries. From its internal struggles to the Arab conquest, Egyptian civilization experienced increasing influence from the outside world. Beset by internal challenges, the Kingdom of the Nile proved unable to withstand the tide of foreign influences. Persian, Greek, and Roman influences left an indelible mark on Egyptian culture, traditions, language, and religion, shaping its trajectory over the centuries.